Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is indeed an honour to launch this inquiry on the Canadian flag on Flag Day, co-sponsored with Senators Salma Taulajan, Jane Cordy, Lucy Mention, and Rebecca Patterson. I'm delighted that other senators will speak to the subject today and in the days ahead. And what you will hear is a series of short speeches on this topic. Colleagues, when I walked to work this morning, walked here to the Senate building, I stopped by the Centennial Flame and marveled at the flag atop the Peace Tower. I thought of the ceremony on February the 15th, 1965, 59 years ago. Lester B. Pearson was Prime Minister, John Diefenbaker was leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, Tommy Douglas was the NDP leader, and Réal Cahouette led Les Créditistes. Georges Vanier was the Governor-General. I'll add that the late Senator Pearson, Landon Pearson, has talked about, she of course was the daughter-in-law of Prime Minister Pearson, she's talked about watching the ceremony with a brood of Pearson grandchildren in the Prime Minister's office, then in the East Bloc. It was a cold February morning, a lot colder than today. Getting a new flag had not been easy. Now, Pearson had a deep belief that we needed a made-in-Canada flag that had no colonial ties. He said, "I believe that today a flag designed around the maple leaf will symbolize and be a true reflection of the new Canada." In 1964, Pearson proposed it publicly at the Royal Canadian Legion Convention in Winnipeg, where he really walked into the lion's den, in fact, the lion's jaws. The Legion, although an extremely patriotic group, did not want to see the flag changed. Après ça, un comité de députés a...
After that, a committee held over 35 meetings and received more than 3,500 proposals from Canadians. The Pearson pennant would have had 3 maple leaves. The approved version was from historian George Stanley.
Owned by Joan O'Malley on November 6th-7th. She literally sewed it overnight. And she was only one of 2 women who appear in the history of the Canadian flag. Interestingly, the other woman was Margaret Conance, one of very few MPs one of very few women MPs at the time. She was a Liberal MP from Winnipeg of Métis ancestry, the only Indigenous person to play a key role in the development of the flag. The flag was approved on December 15th by the House after an incredible debate, not necessarily harmonious. The final vote was at 2 a.m. in the morning, and this was after a 6-month debate over in the House. It then came to the Senate for a vote here. Approved in the House on December 15th. Any guesses as to when it was approved in the Senate? December 17th. Sober second thought was rather quick. I think Senator Moody might have been disappointed that at best they would have had just a committee of the whole, no committee examination. At any rate, it's too soon. Sorry if that's too soon. At any rate, the Queen gave it royal assent on January the 28th in London, an occasion that was attended by both Pearson and Diefenbaker, which is really quite important to note because Diefenbaker had been totally opposed to the flag, but once it was passed, he was there to be present for the royal assent. However, the occasion wasn't overly joyous because the Prime Minister and opposition leader were in London for the funeral of the state funeral of Winston Churchill. Churchill had died on the 24th of January, and during the week between his passing and his funeral, a wonderful flag received royal assent. So it is fitting that we had a more joyous occasion here on February the 15th. That was the day that the new maple leaf flag was officially raised on Parliament Hill for the first time. The maple leaf has become a well-recognized symbol around the world, one that Canadians can wear with great pride, and often we hear that other people wear it on their backpacks to pass as Canadians because they're better accepted that way. At home and abroad, it means so much to so many, certainly a possession of great pride for every new Canadian when they take their oath of citizenship, certainly something I can attest to. I have two thoughts. While there's great pride for most Canadians, the feeling is not as unanimous necessarily among Indigenous people, as the flag does symbolize the Canadian state and in some ways colonialism, especially a state that has not always been kind to Indigenous people, a flag that sometimes flew atop residential schools. On another note, more recently, I'm concerned that the Canadian flag has been adopted by people who want to see governments removed by undemocratic means and who feel an unlawful extended occupation of our nation's capital and harassment of innocent citizens is a fair form of civil disobedience, who fly it in protest, sometimes upside down and sometimes defaced. In my own way, I want to say on the record that our maple leaf in our flag symbolizes us as a country, a people, as a society, and we must respect and defend it. It is the flag of one of the best countries in the world that reaches for the top, and unlike most others, which is willing to examine our imperfections and work to over them. That is the genius of the Canadian state and the enormity of Canadian society. Thank you.